Magandang umaga po mga kaibigan. Welcome to another edition of our Wednesday Roundtable at Lido. And today, we will be talking about counterfeit vaccines and medicines. Mahalaga po ito sapagkat lumabas sa mga balita na mayroong mga falsipikadong gamot at bakuna na narito sa ating lipunan. So we'd like to find out. We're joined by Dr. Oscar G. Gutierrez Jr., Deputy Director General of the Food and Drug Administration. Siya po ang nangangasiwa sa Field Regulatory Operations. We're also joined by Mr. Jess Varela, Chairman of GS1 Philippines. And in a couple of minutes, makakasama po natin si Dr. Beaver Temesis ng Pharmaceutical and Healthcare Association of the Philippines. So let's start. I'd like to get the opening statements of our guests. Dr. Oscar Gutierrez Jr., please welcome and join us. Tell us, give us your opening statements. Naka-mute po kayo? Paki-unmute yan. Good.
Good
Good morning.
Melo.
Opo.
Magandang umaga po sa inyo at sa lahat po. At kami po sa FDA ay sinisiguro po namin na lahat po sana ng bakuna ay matanggap po ng mga mamamayan sa DOH-approved facilities po para masiguro po na matanggap natin ang bakuna ayon po sa na-aprobahan po ng FDA.
Very good. Opo, simula pa lamang yan. Mr. Jess Varela from GS1, good morning and welcome.
Magandang
Yes,
umaga sa lahat ng iyong mga panauhin tsaka mga nakikinig. Alam ho nyo, nung isang taon pa, marami ng report na pumasok lalo na sa South America ng mga counterfeit and substandard vaccines. Ito ay mga bagay-bagay na madalas na mangyari, hindi lamang sa mga vaccine, sa mga iba-ibang bagay, sa mga third world countries. Kaya ang tingin namin, kailangan binabantayan ito at unti-unting pumapasok na rin ito sa, as reported, sa 10 bansa na kasama na ang Pilipinas.
Okay, thank you. Matanong ko na si Dr. Gutierrez. Dr. Gutierrez, gaano po ba kalaki ang drug industry at vaccine industry, if you may, in the Philippines?
Yung vaccine industry po sa atin, basically po, importer po tayo ng bakuna sa Pilipinas. So wala pong tayong bakuna essentially na gawa po dito sa Pilipinas, lalo na po itong COVID vaccine. So kung yung gobyerno po dito po sa launch po ng ating vaccination program, ginawa po niyang one government approach po ito, the whole of government approach po, I mean. So makikita niyo po, nagtutulungan po lahat, ang DOH, ang Department of Finance, ang Bureau of Customs, lalo na ang DTI po, para masiguro po natin na sa gobyerno lang po manggagaling lahat ng bakuna natin. Alam niyo naman po, meron po tayong vaccine SAR at siya lang po ang pwedeng makipag-usap po sa mga vaccine provider po sa Pilipinas. So in coordination po with DOH, DOF at iba po pong ahensya. So solid naman po ang gobyerno. Kung mapapasin nyo, mahirap po masingitan ng counterfeit vaccine kasi highly coordinated po ang government from procurement up to the post-monitoring or post-market surveillance, pati po yung pag-observe po ng mga pasyente. Meron po tayong reporting system. Post-vaccination, pwede pong mag-report ang mga pasyente o yung mga nabakunahan kung ano po ang maaaring naging nararamdaman nilang problema. So, very tight po ang government program pagdating po sa bakuna.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. We're joined by Dr. Beaver Temesis, the President of the Pharmaceutical and Healthcare Association of the Philippines. Dr. Beaver, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thanks again for the invitation, Melo. Sorry I had to do something else, but now I'm here.
Yeah. I'd like to find out from your end, from your members, how big is the drug industry in the Philippines?
Oh, the drug industry, we're about, my gosh, I haven't thought about this in about a few months, but we're about 270 billion pesos. But we did shrink quite a bit in 2020, over 11% counting at one point. Gawa ng pandemic and because na people were so afraid to go to the hospital. So really our business suffered in 2020. Contrary to what everybody else thinks, sorry, hindi. The only parts of the hospital na loaded are COVID floors, but the rest of the hospital was near empty. We're only operating at about 40% capacity for the non-COVID cases. So talagang hirap in industriya right now. And this is causing a lot of companies to revisit how we uh, uh, play, what kind of role we play in the market or in the country, and then realign our expenses and how we actually deliver on our commitments to ensure uninterrupted drug supply to the Filipino.
Yeah, thank you for the update. You know, for the record, mga kaibigan, we also invited the Department of Justice, particularly we requested for the National Bureau of Investigation and the Philippine National Police. But wala po yata silang available na mga magsasalita because we wanted to find out gaano ba katalamak yung mga fake vaccines because no less than the vaccine czar, si Secretary Charlie Galvez yesterday said meron talagang nakakapasok sa Pilipinas. I'd like to find out paano. In your case, Dr. Beaver, how sure are we that the vaccines we buy from legitimate sources are original?
Uh, kung sa legitimate sources, and that usually means through Zwillig, right? They are more often than not the only legitimate or authorized distributor that a lot of my peers sign up with. Simply because they do have the audit trail, they have the proper facilities, so we can assure that the quality of our medicines is protected throughout that particular cold chain. So long as you get it from them, the likelihood that the product is safe, it's effective, it's viable is very, very high. Ang problema is that we do have a lot of fake distributors who actually gather yung mga used vials at nilalagyan ng kung ano-ano tubig, and they now sell that as being, in quotation marks, legitimate. So when you see a deal that is too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. Malamang fake na yan. And
Mhm.
we see it all the time, right? I mean, like I've seen patients already receiving vaccine or claiming to have received COVID vaccine as early as October 2020. I'm an active clinical practitioner. I still see patients. And
Okay.
patients at the time, at the third, fourth quarter last year, I know claim that they received vaccine.
Really?
They
Did,
claim it.
did they get it from abroad?
Nabidako na sila.
Nakuha ba nila sa abroad yung bakuna?
No, at the time, there's nobody traveling, right? Nobody could travel. Hirap na hirap din in inter-island was a difficult
Yeah.
issue.
Okay.
So again, I mean, like, let's put things in context. In October last year, difficulty traveling, nobody could really travel in and out of the country. Yet I had patients who claimed that they received vaccine.
Okay. All right. Pero mabalikan ko muna si Dr. Gutierrez ng FDA. Dr. Gutierrez, I know you're still with us. Yan, all right. I'd like to find out, ano yung pananaw ng Food and Drug Administration sa ganito mga pagkakataon na mayroong mga fake distributors? Do you go after them in the first place? Yes, please. Paki-unmute lang po. Yeah.
Yeah,
Paki-unmute lang. Yeah.
before I answer your question, siguro let me state na possible po, people are buying online. Wala pong bakuna na legitimate po that are sold online. So kung meron pong bumibili ng bakuna online, worldwide po ito, wala pong bakuna na pwede pong mabili online. And second po, kung meron pong report ang FDA na meron pong isang lugar na pwedeng allegedly merong nagbabakuna ron. Pinupuntahan po namin, wala po kaming nakikitang activity po pertaining to any vaccination or any vaccine po na nakuha po namin. I mean, we go there, we don't see any of these vaccines in the place where allegedly the report said that it is present or they are present.
Yeah.
Yeah po. And third po, regarding po, masagot ko lang po yung sa vial. Totoo po yun na we have received reports and validated po yung recycled vials po, especially of rabies before. Pero po as early as 1990, meron pong regulation pong FDA for all hospitals using vaccines po na they have to account for all the vials in their hospitals that were used. It should be disposed and destroyed in the presence po of FDA. So, ngayon po, sabi ko, very tight po yung ating vaccination program. Part of the policy of all vaccination sites all over the country approved by FDA, they have to account for all the vials used in this COVID-19 vaccination program. So, wala pong paraan para po itong mga vial will find their way in the hands of the unscrupulous criminals po or businessmen for that matter. So, ganun po. So, ang idea po dito, hindi po dapat ito talaga makita itong mga unused vial outside of the vaccination site. Kaya po, actually, may advantage po nga yun sa Sputnik na vial eh. Kasi right there, once after using, destroyed na po yung ampules, remember? The Sputnik V is in vial. That is one of the advantages po of using the ampule. Kasi you destroyed the packaging, the container. It can never be recycled po. Salamat po.
Very good. Pero, Doctor, let me ask you, how many vaccines are there in the Philippines today?
What do you mean po? How
Sa
many
COVID, ilan yung authorized ninyo?
So as of now po, meron po tayo yung sa Pfizer BioNTech, meron po tayong Sinovac, meron din po tayong yung yung Sputnik V was granted, EUA, meron po tayong yung sa AstraZeneca po. Then we also have yung Bharat vaccine produced by Bharat po na issue na rin siya.
By India. Okay, what about Sinopharm? What do you know about Sinopharm? How did Sinopharm get into the Philippines and got inoculated to President Duterte?
They applied for a compassionate special permit po for to be used by I understand the PSG po. So authorization from the FDA can be in the form of CPR or the Certificate of Product Registration, which is a product market authorization po. Then the emergency use authorization, which essentially is a authorization, but it is not a market authorization. But the product can be used for in the Philippines to vaccinate our people. Then we have the compassionate special permit. These are permit requested by an institution or a doctor or a physician and a specialist for the purpose of using them for their patients po. So essentially po, this is granted to an institution or a physician specifically po to be used by identified patients po or yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Authorization din po. So may responsibility po dito yung physician over his patient and they are requested po to submit reports po on what happened po after giving this medicine or vaccine to their patients. So,
Yeah, but doctor, isn't it a requirement for FDA in the granting of the EUA or CPR for vaccine manufacturers to have representatives in the Philippines?
that is correct po. Kasi po, our any product po that comes in the country from other countries, there should be a distributor importer, a licensed, an FDA licensed distributor importer. So
Okay.
those who apply for EUA po were done through the distributor importer po.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Yung Sinopharm, may tao na sila sa Pilipinas o wala pa po?
When it comes po pa sa mga compassionate special permit, yung applicant po will be responsible for bringing in the medicine applied for the CSP. Once approved, they can now bring in the product sa Philippines.
So, in the case of PSG, they applied.
Sila po, they are kasi po may sarili namang medical staff po ang PSG. So they brought in the products themselves by virtue of the CSP that was granted. So when it comes to CSP po, that's why it's a special permit. Those who will bring in the product are the applicants themselves for the CSP.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Jess, how does that sound to you? Because you're with GS1 at ito ay isang international standard. Natutupad ba sa Pilipinas yan?
Unang-una, let's give Caesar what is Caesar's. Sa tingin ko naman, dahil lahat itong mga bakuna at mga ibang therapeutics ay under EUA, maganda ang monitoring ng ating pamahalaan. No, but then we have to look at the challenges of the equal access. Ang disease itong COVID-19 will be with us for so many years. No, there will come a time probably by next year or the year after magkakaroon na ng mga commerciality yan, no? Hindi na EUA yan. At ang mga fake counterfeit vaccines saka mga substandards lalong dadami dyan, no? As a matter of fact, yung dating ang Pfizer nga and Biotech came up with already a bulletin talking about counterfeit na Pfizer tsaka BioNTech. At hindi lang sila, no? Meron mga unauthorized copies of these vaccines including AstraZeneca, Sinovac, Sinopharm, Moderna that were reported from 10 countries. Kaya kami naman sa GS1, no, ay hinihingi namin kasi nung dati ang FDA gumawa ng isang memorandum na magiging at par tayo in so far as global standards are concerned. It is very important because the COVID-19 is a global challenge which needs global solutions. And part of that would be yung memorandum circular na nagsasabi na nagbibigay ng mga product identification, mga numero ang paggamit ng 2D data matrix or barcode na nagsasaad yung mga product identification, product number, nagsasabi sinong gumawa, sinong distributor, ano, klase ito mga gamot. Ito is sinuspid din ng FDA. Sa amin, napaka-importante na ito maituloy dahil ito ay nag-identify ng mga produkto para madaling ma-trace. Kasi one of the solutions in checking counterfeits is the traceability of the vaccines and the therapeutics. No, nakikita to at hindi kailangan ng malaking very very simple training and hand scanners lang ang kailangan ng Pilipinas. Malalaman natin sino ang accredited na manufacturer, distributor. Tapos meron diyan yung mga product identification that identifies the features the packaging and market destination. Mas madaling kahit hindi siya naka-RFID yung traceability na real time. Kahit wala yon, maite-trace mo pa rin. Malalaman mo kung pumapasok ang mga bakuna kung saan lugar. No, alam mo kung ang origin at pag chinek mo nandoon. Kaya lang nasuspindi ito kasi dati doon sa memorandum circular ng FDA, hindi ka yung Certificate of Product Registration, hindi ka mabibigyan kung hindi nakasaad yung mga identification. These identification are unique because you are given unique numbers, for the company prefix, the global location number, and what they call the global product identification number, which identifies yung produkto. As a matter of fact, ever since natigil ito ng FDA, lalong gumanda ang data identification, data capture, and data exchange for interoperability, global interoperability. Sa tingin namin kung sumama tayo dyan, mas madali ngayon ma-trace ang yung mga falsipikadong mga bakuna. At babanggitin ko sa inyo, yung sa mga listahan na naikuha naming report na mayroong mga falsipikado, ito, Australia, Brazil, China, Italy, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, Ukraine, USA, at Pilipinas na ispatan na mayroong mga pumapasok. Tandaan natin, ngayon dahil EUA ito, mas maganda ang monitoring yan. Binabantayan yan, sinasalubong yung mga bakuna. Pero pagdating ng panahon yan, siguro sa next year, at lalo na pag naging commercial na yan, paano natin madidetect kung ano yung tama o sa hindi? Kaya merong mga global standards. As a matter of fact, in the policy paper prepared by WHO and supported by UNICEF, sinasabi na nga nila na kinakailangan itong mga standards mailagay sa lugar. At doon, binabanggit nila ang GS1 standards are currently the global family of standards in wide use globally for pharmaceuticals. Itong mga pharmaceuticals na nagbibigay sa atin ng mga bakuna therapeutics, they are compliant with GS1. Ang kinakailangan lang natin, tayo, ay sumabay dyan at malaman din pati sa mga border patrols natin sa borders, malalaman natin. Pangalawa, ang nabalitaan ko may mga 3 o 4 na nag-file ng application para mag-manufacture ng bakuna dito sa Pilipinas. Kinakailangan din itong mga numerong to na maisatupad dahil maite-trace din natin yung domestic supply chain. At mas madaling makita ang mga counterfeit. Pag wala ito, parang open city to . Sino-sino lang gumagawa. And usually, let's not only talk about vaccines, pati yung mga commodities. Nangyayari yan kasi wala yung mga standards na ginagamit ng ibang bansa. Ang ibang sinasabi, napakahirap naman yan. Kailangan mag-upload pa kami ng mga information, etc. Pero maniwala kayo, nung isang taon, mula 2019, late 2019 up to 2020, na nag-impose ang China na walang papasok na produkto or any commodity sa kanilang teritoryo nang walang mga barcode at yung global trade item number. Maniwala kayo, ang Pilipinas was the second most compliant after New Zealand. Susunod sila kung may mga regulasyon na ganito. Dahil hindi lamang ito tungkol sa health, may mga players na negosyo rin yan . Kaya importante pumasok dyan ang gobyerno. When we talk about vaccines and healthcare products, nandiyan ang FDA. Kung nandiyan ang mga produkto, nandiyan ang DTI. gamitin natin itong global standards dahil at the end of the day, you know, it empowers the consumers, by giving them an informed choice, prior purchase, of the commodities. Kasi kayang-kaya iscan ito ng kanilang mga cellphone. Malalaman
Okay.
nila. Kaya bibili sila ng cosmetics, nandoon yung mga allergens. Hindi nila bibili yun. So, yung bibili na lang sila, yung makikita natin sa mga balita. Bumili sila ng cosmetics, ginamit nila, walang mga identification na mga mukha, mga labi. Dahil
Oo.
may mga allergens.
Oo.
Ito yung mga standards na nagpo-protect sa mga consumers.
Okay.
Lalo na ngayon, dahil ang issue ay bakuna. Buhay ang ating pinag-uusapan.
Yes, let me ask you, what could have led to the suspension, to the decision of the FDA to suspend our adherence to
I
GS1?
cannot intelligently answer that because hindi akong gumawa ng suspension, but I'm pretty sure yung issue dyan yung sasabihin ng mga iba, lalo na yung mga small and medium, hindi kami preparado. Kaya kami sa GS1, binuo namin yung amin IT infrastructure. Tumutulong kami sa mga small and medium. Lalong-lalo na sa mga ibang commodity. Dahil ito, pandemic, healthcare, kinakailangan pumasok ang gobyerno para isatupad itong mga global standards. At anong mga global standards? Yung ginagamit na ng karamihan. As a matter of fact, GS1 is present in 116 countries. At mga 70, mahigit na 70 na ang sumusunod sa mga standards sa may mga infrastructure. Ang Pilipinas hindi nahuhuli. Kami is tinayo namin, while nagkaroon ng moratorium, tinayo namin ang infrastructure namin para makatulong kami doon sa mga maliliit na nagsasabi na hindi kami marunong. Tinetrain namin. As a matter of fact, nagbibigay kami ng free seminars sa mga different regions ng DTI. We have not done that with the FDA yet dahil we are hoping na maisatupad nga yung memorandum circular na pinirmahan ng dating kalihim na Janet Garib na sinuspende. Kasi this will start When you're talking of traceability, you need information. And this is the global standard, yung information, meron mga nakasaad na yan para ma-capture at magkaroon ng exchange.
Okay. All right. Can we hear from FDA? Would you know any reason as to the suspension?
Marami po yun. So medyo mahaba rin siguro ang kasagutan ko.
Sige po.
Ito po yan. Una-una, tama po yun. Nagkaroon po ng memorandum circular ng FDA. It was signed by Dr. Kenneth Hartigando. As you know, very challenging po ang GS1. From the word alone pa lang global, in order for that to be effective, dapat po, lahat po ng countries, practically, should be part of that global system. So what FDA did was, yung WHO po, bumuo po sila ng expert group kasi marami pong countries consulted with WHO. So we are closely monitoring po yung findings and recommendation of the WHO expert group on this. Wala pa po silang recommendation. Kasi it's not about Philippines alone, it's about other countries. Now, going back po sa topic natin ng vaccine, since 2001 po, I would like to inform this meeting, this roundtable, meron po tayong tinatawag na lot release certification of FDA, especially for all vaccines. Okay? Once the CPR is already issued, ganito po gagawin ng FDA. Yung manufacturer po and the importer will submit po the lot summary protocol and a sample of the product specific po do sa lot produced. Then we review this sample and the summary lot protocol containing all the quality control tests that were done on the product. Then we issue the lot release certificate in 48, 24, 72 hours. So definitely not more than 72 hours, depending po at what time what day of the week they submitted it. Kung Friday po, siyempre aabot po ng Monday. So ito pong mga lot release certificate, if you visit our website, lahat po ng vaccine that are lot released by the FDA is posted there. So lahat po ng registered products po ng vaccine is posted in the website. Lahat po ng importer po ng vaccine are in the website. So meaning, our regulation treats all lot of or batches of vaccine that come into the country as approved under the CPR. They are treated as a new product. And the way we do that is require them to submit the lot summary protocol and the sample. It cannot be released in the market even if it already entered the Philippines without the lot release certificate. Alam po ng PIHA po yan. So that is our control, even without the GS1. The GS1 po kasi very challenging. There is a cost to all, even the large company, even the MSMEs, once we implement the GS1. And in order to be global, hindi po pwedeng Philippines stand alone and other countries, few countries. So we are consulting with WHO para po align po tayo, in sync po tayo with other countries, especially the ASEAN. So para it will only become effective po if there are several countries are already adopting this international. But anyway, we have instituted since 2001 our lot release certification, specifically only for vaccines and other biologics po. So, covered po talaga yan ng kuwan. Kasi, let me tell you that we have 6 critical control functions for vaccine. One is we register the product. Then we give GMP clearance. Then, we test the vaccines depending po on the origin. Kung locally produced po yan, we have to test it. Then, we do the lot release certification. Then we look at the clinical trial report. And 6 is the post-market surveillance. This is actually our topic. This falls under the post-market surveillance. Ito pong mga counterfeit vaccine, identifying them. So ang advice ko po for all users of vaccine, get your vaccines po from your physician and authorized vaccine sites. You can view po, you can ask the physician to show you the vaccine po, kung anong lot number niya. Go to our website, tingnan niyo po, yung lot na vaccine na used by physician are listed in our website. We update this regularly. If it's not there, you inform FDA. That is how. Salamat po.
Yeah,
Melo.
Yeah.
Melo.
Yes.
Just for all of these vaccine manufacturers that have been identified are all GS1 standard compliant. So sila sumusunod na rito. As a matter of fact, last year when they were discussing about the vaccines and distribution between, I have the paper of a meeting of WHO and UNICEF. It was the recommendation of UNICEF na i-endorse at kung maaring magamit nga itong mga standards na to para sa identification. Alam ko merong ang nakita kong mga problema diyan sa mga kumpanya, yung tediousness of uploading and updating their information. Kasi ginagawa naman nandiyan na yung mga batch number, pag ito yung mga pumapasok, nandiyan yung lot number, nandiyan yung expiration date, nandiyan yung serial number, ginagawa na lahat yan no?
Okay.
So pagdating yan, makikita mo, kaya tama yung sinasabi ni Dr. dati, pagkatapos gamitin yan, dapat sinisira lahat yung mga vials But you see, all those unique identifiable numbers are already present. What we just need to do, because most of these vaccines, if not all, are imported, and now they're all imported. This is how we can, as a matter of fact, hindi lang dapat yung mga consumers or health, dahil ito'y pumapasok from abroad. Dapat pati yung mga customs officials natin should be armed with a little knowledge of the standards, armed with with hand scanners. And anyway, they have their inward-forward manifest. Bago pa dumating yan, alam na nila na marating.
Okay.
Ang mga madaling ma-check, basta magamit lang nila yung mga tamang mga pamamaraan at ito mga standards. Hindi ko nakikita talagang mahirap yan. Kasi something that is new, which was looked at in 2014 or 2015, people are odd. But actually, it will help us. As
Okay.
a matter of fact, it will help us recall substandard products in a snap of a finger. No?
Okay. All right. So maganda 'yon dahil lang sa nung araw ang sabi yung World Trade Organization masama. Pero yung China sumama sa WTO at pinakinabangan kung ano yung provisions ng WTO dahil pinaghandaan nila. But anyway, your insights, Dr. Beaver Tamesis, before I pose some questions from our colleagues in the media.
Well, definitely, I agree with Jess that my peer companies, my colleagues, we're all trying to be very, very compliant, if not actually already compliant. I guess the question is the safeguards when whether or not the product actually came through the official channels, right? There's so much. Let's face it, our borders are very porous.
Yes.
So stuff gets in. Stuff gets in, period. And we hear about it and see it all the time. Online selling on Viber groups, people claiming they've had the vaccine when you know it's not available. So, I mean, like all of us constantly look at improving our technologies. We're now even using blockchain to try to figure out which particular kung may nakasingit dun, so that can be kicked out of our supply chain. Counterfeits are extremely good. I mean, like we've seen some products that look almost exactly like our own vaccines for HPV. We've seen that in Hong Kong, of all places. Nakapasok din dun, despite there being only one official distributor. So really, I mean, like it really requires a sustained effort. Let's not just focus on the official channel, because there are a lot of really porous ways that all of these unauthorized copies make it into our market, into our
Okay.
country.
Thank you. Can I ask Dr. Oscar Gutierrez, from a colleague in the media, si Othel Campos, meron na ba nakapasok na Moderna vaccines in the Philippines, allegedly imported by the private sector? Since there are reports that hospitals are already administering this to nurses, frontline workers, and senior citizens willing to pay. Paki-unmute lang po.
Sorry. Yung Moderna po, wala pa po siyang EUA, yung pagkakaalam ko. They still have, whoever will import the Moderna in the country will have to apply for an EUA. Pero I am aware po na under the tripartite agreement, meron na pong mga Moderna orders that pushed through. So they will be arriving maybe on the second or third quarter of this year. Pero opo, meron po talagang plan to use Moderna in the country as one of the choices po for the people in the vaccination program. Yung naman pong nagsasabi po na meron pong nabakunahan na hindi po we don't have any information on that. And unless po we verify it po, I cannot make any statement po. We have not received any report po.
Okay. Do you have
Melo,
Yeah? Yes?
Melo, just to no, even yung last year, mga bandang September, October, wala pa yung compassionate use ng Sinopharm. No, pati ako na-offeran kung gusto ko na magpabakuna. Marami nang nabakunahan during that time. Nakapasok yon. Yun ang sinasabi ko at tama si Dr. Tamesis, no, na hindi na nababantayan ng mga borders, no? Paano kung hindi maganda o mali o substandard o fake yung Sinopharm? Di patay lahat yung PSG natin, no?
Kaya nga worried ako dahil pati si Presidente nasaksakan
But siyempre galing sa mahusay yon. That is a given. That is given. No?
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say, now, as I mentioned earlier, now, nakabantay ang gobyerno. Maganda ang ginagawa ni General Charlie Galvez, no? But there will come a time, no? Kasi ano ba yung efficacy nitong ang sabi nila, meron mga 6 to 8 months, meron 1 taon. Ibig sabihin, magkakaroon ka na naman ng mga booster shots every year. How long will this last? Pag siguradong merong mga problema sa access, no? Diyan dadami ang counterfeit. So when the demand becomes great and there is only little supply, at commercial na yan, you can bet that maraming papasok dyan.
Yeah. May question si Bernie Cahiles Magkilat ng Bulletin. Pakitanong lang sa mga panelists, bakit nakasama yung Pilipinas? Bakit na red tag ang Pilipinas? Doon sa USTR report na ang Pilipinas ay leading source ng counterfeit medicines in 2020. Would you care to react, gentlemen? Dr. Gutierrez, please, from the FDA. Paki-unmute lang po.
Sorry po. Thank you, Melo. Hindi po ako aware na merong ganung red, what do you mean? We are in the red list po of
We were tagged in the USTR report that the Philippines is a leading source of counterfeit medicines in 2020.
We did not. I personally did not read the report po, so I cannot comment on something I've not read. Pero if that was, we do not deny po na there are counterfeit medicine that were seized po in the country, and we have reports on that. As of 2020, I understand we have something like I'm not. This is not exact, but around 20 million peso worth of counterfeit goods were seized. Maybe it also included the unregistered product. But
Yes.
definitely, we have data starting 2014. Yes, we have been active po going to answering or investigating reports that we receive. Then we do some bypass activities. We seized po in 2020 around 20 million pesos po. So
Okay.
meron po talaga. Pero I'm not aware about our ranking.
Yeah. Na-prosecute pa yung mga nahuli at anong status ng kaso? Ang mga Pilipino kasi mahilig sa sample.
Yes po, meron po na we follow the due process naman po eh. So that is in another office po of FDA, nasa legal po 'yon. So once we ang tawag nila dito, yung bang sinasabi nga we build up the case under our office, the FROO. We forward it po sa legal. And as you know, the justice grinds slowly. Sometimes po, it takes months or even a year before we receive information na may decision na po.
Okay.
But as far as the FRO is concerned, we really do not monitor what's happening to the case. But definitely po, cases are forwarded po to our legal division.
Yeah. Melo.
I believe your legal office has the job of informing you because you are in the field operations.
Tama po yun.
O dapat meron silang ganun. I update kayo.
Pero
Melo.
the data po, I do not have the data.
Okay, no problem. We'll have another meeting for that. Yes, Jess.
Melo, maari yung report, hindi ko rin nabasa yun kung galing sa USTR, maari yung report yan that these were before the vaccine. Kaya ang tingin ko, medyo malicious yun. Sinilabas sila during this pandemic. Alam mo, dati ako ang chairman ng intellectual property ng Philippine Chamber of Commerce. Madalas kong makadebate yung USTR yan dahil lagi tayong nilalagay sa yung watch list or blacklist na hindi naman dapat tama. Dahil sinasama nila tayo ang recipient. Hindi nila sinasama kung sino yung galing, kung kanino galing yung mga substandard at fake niyan. Yan ang madalas na away namin. Bakit hindi nyo sinasama ang China? Hindi nyo sinasama ang Malaysia? Yung mga saan pinanggagalingan yung mga fake, no? Kaya at tingin ko, yung mga report na ganon, may konting malice yan, merong konting agenda yan. No?
Aha.
I just want to put things in proper perspective because these were the issues that I would not only debate but fight with people there in USTR, meeting with them on how unfair they can be in the reports.
Mhm.
Melo,
Yes, Dr. Bigger.
I'm not sure about the 2020 report, but what we do know of is the an earlier report that was last year, reported by Rappler and other organizations, talking about a United Nations study between the years of 2013 to 2017, where the Philippines had the most number of incidents of counterfeiting and illegal distribution of pharma products. Of total of 460 events, 193 occurred in the Philippines. Now, in fairness to the report, they did mention that the main sources were, again, the usual suspects: India, Pakistan, China, unusual cited sources of these illegal products. And they were mostly for urinary tract infection, erectile dysfunction, as usual, and central nervous system drugs. So these were potentially mga either misbranded, falsely labeled, expired, walang laman, or too much of the purported active ingredient. So potentially, they could be very harmful, deadly. At best, they could be just ineffective. So then ang available na report sa amin ngayon that hawak namin.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not sure whether there was another one. Yeah, but I think the USTR mismo, we haven't seen that till now, or haven't
Okay.
not heard about that till now.
Uh-huh. Dr. Beaver,
Ay,
may tanong.
blacklist ba nila yung mga sources? Ang tanong ko.
Walang nasabi si Bernie, yung ating kaibigan.
Kasi madalas hindi nila bina-blacklist yung sources lalo na pag China.
Ganon?
Oh, yan yung aking mga issues not on the pharma but on other commodities. Yung nasa watch list tayo dati. Because I was one of those who fought that we'd be taken out from that watch list.
Okay.
You know?
All right. Dr. Beaver, may tanong, any update on the second batch of medicines to be subjected to maximum retail price? What is the prospect of the pharma industry this year? Yan kay Irma ng Malaya Business Insight.
Well, obviously, we're hoping that it doesn't happen because really the industry is hurting. As I mentioned at the start of the meeting, we have contracted. The industry has contracted quite a bit in 2020 versus 2019. And the only part, like I said, that's doing well are really the over-the-counter vitamin stuff. But the ethicals, the antibiotics, the inpatient required drugs, a lot of these talagang business went down the drain. So some sectors are doing okay, but the vast majority of our business is really in the dumps. So if you're going to again go through price controls, that will impose a lot of hardship on the industry and will force a lot of restructuring, will force a lot of rethinking about how we do business in the country. So it doesn't help. Price controls do not help. We
No.
are in the middle of advocating for a real sustained measure of pool procurement because at least yun viable yung sa sustainability namin. At least you can predict how much you can actually sell and lock in a particular price, so that must be consistency you can forecast, you can see what your business will look like. But to suddenly impose again price controls, wow, that will really drive a lot of companies to really reconsider their businesses.
So what are the prospects of the drug pharma industry in 2021? Will there be growth or continued decline?
Well, if
And
you're
the
optimistic, I
vaccine
mean, like
industry prospect given the pandemic?
given the pandemic, right? I mean, like the initial forecast at the end of last year for 2021 was that we may have returned to some growth of 5 to 6%. But looking at the way things are going, this one trimester na tayo, it's not looking very good, right? I mean, like we've had to go into lockdowns again. Hospitals again limited the number of patients that they accept. capacity is still at only 40%. They've not been able to increase their capacity in non-COVID floors, right? So really, it's still touch and go, I suspect, for the rest of the year.
Yeah. For Dr. Gutierrez, last Monday, yung Pangulo ng Asian Development Bank, sa kanyang talumpati, nabanggit niya ito. Enhancing the vaccine production capacity is imperative to mitigate this demand-supply gap issue. And we must expand investment in vaccine manufacturers in the region, including Korea, Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. Hindi nabanggit yung Pilipinas. Ano kaya nangyari?
Ah, hindi po nabanggit yung Pilipinas, pero may plano po ang Pilipinas na mag-set up po ng local manufacturing plant dito for vaccine in partnership po with the private sector or even the other foreign vaccine manufacturer under a shared product po. Meron pong, ang pagkakaalam ko po, meron pong 4 na local drug establishment willing to partner po. So ganito po yan, gumawa po kami ng ang FDA together with other agencies po ng green lane. Should a local drug establishment would like to pursue po of developing or constructing a local vaccine manufacturing plant in the Philippines, we will provide them a green lane for issuing the license to operate and even the authorization to use that product in the market under an EUA or CPR. For example po, siyempre kung ang Sinovac, for example, has an EUA already in the country and they would like to partner with the Sinovac innovator in China under a shared product po, that EUA still stands. So we will provide also a green lane so that this product can be evaluated as far as the safety, efficacy, and quality before they are used po by the DOH implementation, vaccine program po.
Yeah.
So, po, may plano po talaga. And I will not be surprised po yung joint memorandum circular if it will be signed anytime this week po.
Ay, very good. Congratulations in advance. Pero I do recall Ambassador Kovaev, the former Russian ambassador to Manila, who said that Gamalaya would like to put up their plant in Manila in a joint partnership. Pagkatapos, sa panayam ko kay Dr. Henry Lim Bonlong ng Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, nabanggit namin na mayroong mga interesadong magtayo rito. Kaya lang, so much red tape brought them to other countries like Vietnam and Thailand. So, probably yung sagot nyo kanina, yung green lane, baka yun na ang kailangan. Ano po?
Kasi po, ang pagkakaalam ko po, based on, alam mo, matagal na po ako sa FDA, 1986 pa, hindi nyo na itatanong, ay may mga business decision po out of, minsan hindi na regulatory pang consideration. It's a business decision. So, very unfair naman po to say na lumipat po sa Vietnam because of our regulation. It could have been a business consideration po. May business.
Okay.
Salamat
Okay.
po.
Yeah.
Pero we have the green lane na po. We have the green lane.
Ay, Melo,
Yeah.
for Dr. Gutierrez,
Oo.
alam mo naman, nagka-COVID ako, naka-isolate pa ako hanggang ngayon. No? Gumagaling na after 1 month. But in between, nakakatanggap ako ng sulat sa Russia na interesado yung Gamaleya magtayo dito. Siguro marahil i-endorse ko na lang kay Dr. Gutierrez. No? No? Meron sila mga 3 sulat ang natanggap ko signifying their intentions to set up a manufacturing laboratory for vaccines.
Ay, good. Okay. So, siguro yan.
Mr. Melo, ganito na lang po ito siguro. Kasi we have a draft MOA with Russia po. Yung kanina pong NRA, yung FDA po nila, tsaka FDA namin, meron po tayong draft na Memorandum of Agreement. Kasi po, pagdating po kasi sa mga ganyang usapin, we have to understand po each other's regulatory policies. So, nasa stage po kami sa FDA na meron po kami first draft ng MOA, more than, among other things po, the objective is really to understand our system of regulation. Ganun po.
Okay.
Yan lang po sabi ko. Meaning, we have already an initiative as far as the both regulatory agencies from Philippines and Russia to understand its system, and that is a good start po. Should they really pursue putting up a plant in the Philippines? Salamat.
Very good.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, at least maliwanag. Pero siguro, let me take the opportunity, Dr. Oscar. Let me ask you, what's the latest on Ivermectin?
Oh, the Ivermectin po. Si BG Domingo na po bahala dyan. Pero as far as my office is concerned, we are doing some investigation po. That,
Okay.
si BG na lang po bahala.
Yeah. Paano kasi nakatanggap din ako ng Ivermectin eh.
Melo, isa yan, no, yung sa Ivermectin, whether it's good or not, I will not dwell on that, if it's effective or not. I will go on the basis of labeling and product identification. Yung unang lumabas yung Ivermectin na yan, tama yung hawak mo. Yung mga capsula, red and yellow. Lately, nag-iiba na. Yung mga ibang capsula, naging dilaw, may verde, no, meron tableta. Pag yung banig ng mga tableta o ng mga capsule, walang labeling, walang anuman. Yun ang sinasabi ko rin tungkol do sa mga standards eh. No? Paano malalaman? Para malalaman, ano yan eh? Hindi mo alam ilan ang milligrams yan. Ano ba yon? Kung nag-iiba-iba yung mga kulay. Those are the things that GS1, is standing for. Whatever it is, if it's, meron mga gamot nakasulat, walang therapeutic claim, no, etc. Marami nang gumagamit. I'm pretty sure napakarami ang gumagamit ng IBM, ng Ivermectin. Pero ang problema, yung nakikita ko, ako, dahil alam mo, medyo lumala yung sitwasyon ko, lahat ininom ko eh. Minom ako ng linwa, minom ako ng Ivermectin, minom ako ng kung ano-ano, binigyan ako ng mga kung anong ineksyon. Lahat yan eh, kasi when you're fighting for life, ganun yan eh. Pero ano ngayon, pagkuha mo, bakit iba-iba ang dating? Walang labeling. I think government should come in on those things.
Okay, very good. From the pharma company, I know maraming argumento tungkol dito sa Ivermectin, pero ang sabi nga hindi ka man gumaling sa COVID pero mapupurga ka naman. So that's what I heard. Mga usapang kanto yun eh. Pero I just don't know. Pero yung aming taong grasa rito sa Pag-asa, walang maskara, walang face shield, pero walang sintomas ng COVID-19. Yun ang isang nakita ko. Anyway, we're about to end our discussions today. May we have your parting message, Jess, and then si Dr. Beaver, kung wala nang tanong yung mga kapatid natin sa hanap buhay. And then, of course, ang ating kasama mula sa FDA. Jess, your turn.
Yeah. Well, I will still push for the traceability of the medical products, whether they're vaccine or other therapeutics. Napaka-importante na iti-trace natin to. Madaling bagay kasi kung ito yung mga imported items, may standards na sinusunod. No, sasabay lang tayo. Ang kinakailangan lang na maisama yung product identification, manufacturer identification. I will give you an example why Melo. This is not something to do with healthcare. Kung naalala mo dati, nagkaroon yung kaibigan natin, nagka-problema ng African swine flu. Dahil alam mo yan, bago magpasko yon, nasuspindi siya ng DA. Pero alam niya saan galing yung baboy na may infection, no? At yun na-trace niya at alam niya anong warehouse at anong distribution niya, no? In 1 week na-recall niya lahat yon at na-lift yung suspension niya. Hindi ba paboryan in terms of business sense? And at the same time, it already helped yung impact, health impact, kung hindi na-trace at na-recall kaagad lahat yan. Naalala mo rin dati nagkaroon tayo ng avian flu, no, sa Nueva Ecija. Anong ginawa? Pinagpapapatay lahat yung mga manok sa buong Nueva Ecija. Sinunog yung mga itlog. Such losses. Pero kung meron tayong yung sistema ng standards of identifying the products, the source and the distributor or manufacturer, no, ang laking tipid yan. Isang magandang sistema na makakatulong, no, hindi ito this is not an added burden of expense for manufacturers. No, it helps them, make them more efficient, that inventory management well, avoid wastages and losses. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it is all about consumer safety and protection. Kung ma-adapt natin ito sa healthcare products, no, kinakailangan, ang tanong ko, balak bang sumabay ang ating gobyerno dito sa mga world standard na to, lalong-lalo na ngayon na pandemic, na ang solusyon ay global din ang solusyon. Yun lang ang akin.
Thank you. Dr. Beaver, please.
Well, thank you again, Melo, for inviting us to speak here today. No? But I can assure you that the members of PHAP are all helping the fight against counterfeit. We do collaborate very closely with the FDA, Intellectual Property Office, enforcement units in identifying fakes versus real medicines. We are working on protecting yung supply chains namin through technology such as authentication, inspection, verification of even yung active pharmaceutical ingredient. Doon pa lang nagsisimula. We're already doing all this verification. Serialization using barcodes, blockchain so that we can kick out mga fake drug products. And we also participate nga in these advocacy campaigns and information sharing. Now, when it comes to COVID naman, we will continue to all our research and development work for COVID and COVID vaccines and tablets and treatments in the future that we are looking forward to. Alongside with it are mga safeguards to ensure their integrity. Kasi syempre nga, I mean, like just as mentioned, this is life-saving. This is part of our major work in this pandemic, among many others. We are here to ensure the uninterrupted supply of medicines for COVID and other diseases, but we do definitely need support from the government, not imposing really extraneous conditions that really make life even more difficult than it already has been. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you again for inviting us here.
Of course, we will have all the time to discuss issues. Now, Dr. Gutierrez, please.
Opo, maiksi lang po, kung gusto po natin makasiguro na hindi po peke ang bakuna na ituturok po sa atin, magpabakuna po tayo sa mga DOA's approved or recognized vaccination site po. Sigurado po ako, pag dyan po nyo kinuha ang inyong bakuna, dyan kayo nagpabakuna, hindi po kayo mapipeke. Maraming po salamat.
Short and sweet. I'd like to say thank you to all our guests. Kasama natin si Dr. Oscar G. Gutierrez Jr. ng Food and Drug Administration, si Dr. Beaver Temesis ng Pharmaceutical and Healthcare Association of the Philippines, at si Ginoong Jess Varela ng GS1 Philippines. Actually, tumawag yung CIDG. They were told by the Office of General Sinas to join the discussions. Pero hindi ko malaman kung bakit hindi nakarating. I would have wanted to ask them, yung nahuli nyo, nakasuhan nyo, kumusta? Nahatulan ba sila? Yan. Ang karaniwang kasing notion ng pulisya, pag na-file na yung kaso sa piskalya, solved na yun. Eh what if na-dismiss? You know, marami pa rin tayong dapat pag-usapan. Pero ang pinakamahalaga nito, siguro at this point in time, let's try to be healthy. And if you have a healthy mind, you have a healthy body as well. Thank you. God bless us all. Sa mga colleagues in the media, thank you for joining us.
Maraming salamat sa lahat.
Sa ulitin po.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Salamat.